suspect, Harry Kalasha, was one of a new group of aspiring gangsters who are shooting, bombing, and buying their way into power in Detroit's underworld.
A deadly new strain of organized crime is flexing its muscle on the streets of Detroit, and some people are calling it the new mob.
They are young, heavily armed Chaldeans who fancy themselves the new mob.
One of the most exotic crime stories out of Detroit from back in the 80s and early 90s involves a group of people called Chaldeans. These are Catholic Iraqis that came to mostly Detroit, a little bit in Chicago and some in San Diego, but mostly Detroit, starting kind of when Saddam came into power in the late 60s. They made a lot of money, but there was a couple families that were involved in some pretty far out criminal stuff that was all over the news in the late 80s and early 90s. And I lived at 6 Mile and Woodward, and this was all going on up at 7 Mile and Woodward.
They're together. Okay, that's a 14. They are together.
Three men meet in a Dearborn shopping center parking lot. The man on the left is Jaime Geraldo, a Colombian drug supplier and money launderer. He and his brother Norberto were based in Detroit, working for the Colombian cocaine cartel. The man in the middle is Bassem Jargis. The taller one on the right is Basil Mezzi. Both are Chaldeans who were indicted and pled guilty in the biggest drug money laundering investigation in Detroit and U.S. history.
It appears there's going to be a transfer of packages.
Jargis and Mezzi would give Colombian drug traffickers suitcases brimming with cash. The money was laundered through domestic and foreign banks and ultimately into the coffers of the Colombian drug cartel. During a year-long investigation, undercover customs agents accounted for $8 million in drug profits collected for the cartel in Detroit.
We observed them to meet only with suspect Chaldean drug traffickers and no one else. That $8 million could have come from only one source, and that was the Chaldeans that the Geraldo brothers were meeting with.
Bassem Jargis and Basil Mezzi were part of a drug organization headed by the late Harry Kalasha, a Chaldean murdered execution style last winter.
So if you remember the movie The Infiltrator, starring Bryan Cranston, which was about the IRS infiltrating Colombian drug dealers in the 80s as money launderers,